My sister said, "Let's remove the useless people from this family, and you're the first to go." My parents laughed. Then my mother added, "The only thing you're good for is the money you bring home." I took a deep breath, looked around the room they had turned against me, and said, "Great. In that case, start packing your bags, because this house is mine." My name is Sloan Carver. I am 31 years old, and for years, I worked myself into the ground to build the life I had. I was a construction project manager, working 60-hour weeks, and bringing home around $9,000 a month. It was good money, but it was not easy money. Every dollar came from long hours, brutal deadlines, early mornings on job sites, late nights reviewing plans, and the kind of exhaustion that makes your bones feel heavy before you even get home. 3 years ago, I bought the house I had dreamed about for most of my adult life. It had 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a pool, and a backyard that looked like it belonged in a magazine. Every inch of that house came from my own sweat. It came from skipped vacations, packed lunches, overtime, bonuses I never spent, and every bit of energy I still had left after work. Then one afternoon, my parents showed up at my front door. My dad, Glenn, was 59. He told me he had retired early because of his back. My mom, Diane, gave me the same tired explanation she always used when life got hard. My younger sister Marlo was with them too. Marlo had never managed to keep a job longer than 5 months. There was always a reason: bad manager, toxic coworkers, a schedule that didn't align with her brand. Whatever the excuse was, it always ended with someone else covering the consequences. "The rent went up again," Dad said, looking exhausted. "We can't afford it anymore. You've got this big place all to yourself. Maybe we could stay here for a bit, just until we find something." I should have said no. I know that now. But they were my family, and guilt has a way of wearing your own voice until it sounds like compassion. So I said, 6 months, that's it. They promised. They actually looked relieved. For a moment, I even felt good about it. I thought I was finally the daughter who could give back. I thought I was helping them through a hard season. That feeling did not last a week. 2 weeks in, I came home from work and found them lounging by the pool with drinks in their hands, while the kitchen looked like a war zone. Dishes were stacked in the sink. Takeout containers covered the counters. Trash had overflowed onto the floor. "We were going to clean up," Mom said from her chair. She did not move. Nobody cleaned up. The utility bills told the real story before anyone admitted anything. My electricity bill went from $190 to $460. Water jumped from $80 to $230. Groceries went from $400 a month to $1,200, because apparently 3 extra adults could eat like they were racing a clock. I kept telling myself it was temporary. 6 months. I could carry it for 6 months. Then Marlo brought home a guy named Dax. He arrived on a motorcycle that leaked oil onto my driveway, wearing sunglasses indoors and a smile that never reached his eyes. Within a week, his boxes were in my garage, and his laundry was in my machine. "He's between places," Marlo said, as if that explained why a grown man I had never invited was suddenly living in my house. "He'll help out around here. He's good with money stuff." He did not help with anything. He slept until noon, disappeared in the afternoons, and came back smelling like other people's cigarettes. Later, I would learn that he was good with money, just not the kind that helped anyone but himself. I tried to set limits. I made a chore chart and taped it to the fridge. Marlo drew a mustache on my handwriting, took a photo of it, and posted it online with the caption, "When your sister thinks she's our manager." It got 200 likes. I got the notification because we were still connected. I unfollowed her that night. The next week, I came home from a site inspection and found a dozen strangers in my backyard. Music was blasting so loudly, the patio doors rattled. Marlo and Dax were hosting. My liquor, my pool, my speakers. People I had never met were tracking mud through my living room and stubbing cigarettes out in a plant pot near the door. "Relax," Marlo yelled over the music when I found her. "It's networking. For the brand." At 11 that night, my neighbor knocked. He was the polite older man from 2 doors down, the one who watered my plants when I traveled. He did not look angry. He looked tired. "Sloan, I don't want trouble," he said, "but this is the 3rd one this month, and the HOA has started a file. I wanted you to hear it from me before you got a letter." The 3rd one. I had not even known about the first 2. I apologized to him, then shut the party down myself at midnight. 4 days later, I received a $300 HOA citation in the mail. In my name, of course. 2 days after that, Dax took my car without asking. I had left the spare key in the kitchen drawer. He brought the car back with a fresh dent in the rear panel and an empty gas tank. "Barely a scratch," he said without even looking at it. "I'll cover it." He never covered anything. By the end of the first month, my house no longer felt like mine. It felt like a hostel I was paying to clean. So one evening, I sat all of them down at the dinner table I had paid for in the house I owned and asked the simplest question I could. Can everyone chip in something for the bills? Even a little. It's gotten expensive. Dad did not even pretend to consider it. We don't have extra money. I looked at Marlo. Marlo, you could get a part-time job. Anything. She did not look up from her phone. I'm building my brand. You wouldn't get it. I turned to Dax. And you? Dax gave me that empty smile. I've got irons in the fire. Big stuff coming. You'll see. That was when the comments started, and once they started, they never really stopped. Sloane is married to her job, Mom would say to anyone who would listen. She doesn't know how to enjoy life. We do. She's always so tense, Marlo added once, right in front of Dax. Money is the only thing she's ever been good at. Honestly, it's kind of sad. They laughed in my kitchen, at my table, while eating food I had bought. I went upstairs, sat in the dark, and told myself, 6 months. It's almost over. Then the 6 months ended. Nobody packed a thing. When I finally asked, so when are you all planning to move out? Dad set down his fork like I had insulted him. Why would we? He said. We're comfortable here. We're family, Sloane. You shouldn't be keeping tabs on family. I felt trapped, guilty for wanting my own space, angry for being treated like a stranger in my own home. And underneath all of that, there was a quiet dread, because I was starting to understand they were never going to leave on their own. I just did not know yet how far they would go to stay. The slow part was almost worse than what came later. It was week after week of small surrenders. I started dreading my own driveway. Some nights, after a long shift, I would sit in my car in the garage for 20 minutes before going inside, just to have one space where nobody needed anything from me. I ate lunch alone at work and called it being busy. I stopped inviting people over because the house was no longer mine to offer. A coworker asked if I was all right and said I had gotten quiet. I laughed it off and changed the subject. I did not have the words yet for what it does to you, paying for a home you are not allowed to live in. I told myself I was being dramatic. They were family. Families were messy. This was temporary. I repeated it like a spell, and the spell stopped working a little more every week. The first real escalation came through the mail. A credit card statement arrived in my name. I did not recognize the account. It had a $1,900 balance. Furniture for the studio. A drone. Purchases from websites I had never visited. I confronted Marlo. Oh, that, she said. Dax helped me apply. You're the only one with good credit. We were going to tell you. I stared at her. You opened a card in my name? As a household, she said, like that was a legal category. It's for the house. Relax. It is not for the house. There is a drone on here. The drone is for content. Content brings money, which helps the house. You're welcome, actually. I closed the card the next morning and paid it off so it would not wreck my credit score. I told myself that was the line. They had crossed it, and now they knew I was watching. I was wrong about where the line was. They were just getting started. 2 days later, I came home, and my bedroom door would not open all the way. Something heavy was behind it. I pushed my way inside and stopped cold. My bed was gone. My dresser was gone. My nightstands were gone. The framed prints were off the walls. In their place sat my parents' furniture. Their bedspread, their photos lined up on my windowsill like they had lived there for years. My own clothes were in trash bags piled in the hallway. I found them in the kitchen, calm as anything. We took the master, Dad said before I could even ask. It's bigger. We're 2 people. You're 1. It just makes more sense. That's my bedroom. Don't be childish, Sloane, Mom said. It's a bed. You can take Marlo's old room. Marlo's old room is now a closet for Dax's things. Then, take the guest room. Mom shook her head like I was the unreasonable one. Honestly, the way you carry on about furniture. I stood in my own kitchen, holding the door frame, and understood with perfect clarity that there was no bottom to this. There was no amount I could give that would ever be enough. Every inch I surrendered simply became the new floor they stood on to reach for the next thing. I did not argue. Arguing was what they wanted, because arguing meant I still believed there was a version of this where they would be reasonable. So I dragged my trash bags of clothes into the guest room and shut the door. A week later, I came home from a 14-hour day on a job site and found that my home office was gone. I worked from home 2 days a week. I had a small office off the hallway with 2 monitors, a standing desk, and a locked cabinet full of project files and client contracts. It was the one room in the house that was purely mine, purely work, and purely off limits. I opened the door and froze. My desk was gone. My monitors were gone. My chair was gone. In their place sat a daybed, a vanity wrapped in fairy lights, and a ring light on a tripod. I found my equipment in the garage, shoved between Dax's boxes. One monitor had a crack spidering across the corner. I went downstairs shaking. What did you do to my office? Marlo did not even look guilty. She was sitting on the new daybed filming herself. "It's a studio," she said. "You don't even use that room every day." It just made more sense. "It is not just a room, it is where I work." That cabinet had signed contracts in it. Where is the cabinet? In the garage somewhere. It's fine. One of my monitors is cracked. From the kitchen, Mom called, "Don't be dramatic, Sloan. It's just a room." "No," I said. "It was my office, in my house, with my job inside it." I did not say another word. I carried my equipment upstairs piece by piece and set it up on the floor of the guest room because that was the only space left that they had not taken. That night, I sat on the guest bed surrounded by my own displaced belongings and needed to feel like at least one thing in my life was still mine. So I opened my laptop and logged into my savings account. Balance: $50,400. That money represented 3 years of discipline. It was meant for an investment property I had been planning. It was skipped trips, cheap meals, overtime bonuses, packed lunches, and every time I chose my future over immediate comfort. Seeing the numbers steadied me. It was proof that I still had a future they could not touch. The next morning, that proof was gone too. I had left my laptop charging in the living room overnight, the way I always did. Over coffee, I logged into my bank account to move money for the mortgage, and at first, the screen did not make sense. Balance: $41. I refreshed. Same number. I refreshed again. Still $41. My chest went tight. I opened the transaction history and saw it. 4 days earlier, a single transfer had gone out. $51,800. To an account I did not recognize. I stood in my own living room and felt the floor tilt beneath me. Who touched my savings account? Dad did not even look up from the television. Marlo needed capital. Dax is launching an online boutique. It's a family investment. I heard the words, but they would not land. "You moved $51,000 out of my account." "We didn't move it," Dad said. "We invested it. There's a difference. I did not authorize that. Nobody asked me." Mom came in from the kitchen. "You're so selfish about money. You make good money. You'll earn it back. It took me 3 years to save that. And it'll take you 3 more, she said. "So what? Family helps family." Dad finally looked at me. "They'll pay you back when the business takes off." I turned to Marlo. "What business? What does Dax actually sell?" "It's a whole supplier system," she said. "Drop shipping. You wouldn't understand it." "Show me the website. Show me one order. Show me anything. I don't owe you a presentation," she snapped. "Dad already approved it." "It wasn't his to approve," I said, my voice going very quiet. "And it was not an investment. It was theft. You logged into my account from my laptop and stole from me." Dad stood up. "Watch your mouth. We're family. What's yours is ours." "No," I said. "What's mine is mine. I earned every dollar of it." "We gave you a roof when you were a kid," Mom said. "I gave you a roof for a year," I said. "This house is in my name. That account is in my name. None of this is ours. It is mine, and you took it." Dad waved his hand. "Technicalities. You're thinking like a lawyer instead of a daughter." And right there, in that one dismissive wave, I stopped feeling guilty. I went upstairs and called the bank. After I explained everything, the representative said, "Ma'am, I'm showing the transfer was authorized using your login, your password, and the one-time security code sent to the account." I said, "I did not authorize anything. Someone used my saved login. Does anyone else have access to your device or your information?" I thought about my laptop charging in the living room. I thought about the browser that had saved every password. I thought about Marlo sitting at my old desk every night, filming in the office she had stolen from me. "Yes," I said. "Several people who live with me." There was a pause. "That makes this more complicated," the representative said. "If the person who made the transfer lives in your household, we can't simply reverse it as fraud. You will likely need to file a police report and pursue it legally." "I'm sorry." I asked, "Can I get the money back at all?" The representative said, "It depends on where it went and whether it is still there. You'll need legal representation." I would act quickly. I hung up and sat very still for a long time. Then I searched for a property and fraud lawyer near me, and I called the first office with strong reviews. "Law Office of Renata Voss," a calm voice answered. "I need an urgent consultation," I said. "My family has been living in my house rent-free for over a year. They opened a credit card in my name. They took over my office. And 4 days ago, they drained $52,000 out of my savings using my laptop. I think it's fraud, and I want them out." The woman asked, "Can you come in tomorrow at 9? I said, "I'll be there." That night, I did not sleep. I printed every statement. I photographed the cracked monitor in the garage. I photographed the credit card application I had found in Marlo's studio. I screenshotted every text where they admitted moving my things and calling my money theirs. By morning, I had a folder 2 inches thick and a feeling I had not had in a year. I was done being the nice one. When I sat across from Renata Voss, she went through the folders slowly, page by page. As she read, the corner of her mouth tightened in a way I would later come to recognize as a good sign. Finally, she said, "You have a strong case. The house is in your name. There is no lease. They pay no rent. That gives us clean grounds for eviction. The credit card opened in your name without consent is its own matter. And the transfer, if we can prove unauthorized access, is potentially criminal." I asked, "How long does it take?" Renata said. "For eviction, 30 days if they cooperate, 60 if they fight. For the money, 3 to 6 months, and that depends entirely on where it went. That is the first thing we trace. How fast can you get me your full account history?" "Tonight." "Good. I'll need a retainer." 1,500. I wrote the check on the spot. My hand did not even shake. By the end of that meeting, I felt something I had not felt in over a year. Control. But I had no idea how ugly things were about to get. I drove straight to work from Renata's office. I had barely sat down when my boss, Wes Calloway, called me into his office. "Sloan," he said, closing the door behind me. "I got a strange call last night. A woman said she was your sister. She told me you're having a mental breakdown, that you're unstable, that the family is worried, and that I should keep a close eye on your projects in case you, quote, do something erratic." I went cold. Did she give a name? No, but she knew your last name and your active project list. She knew about the Halverson build. I let out a short, bitter laugh. That's my sister. My family has been living in my house for free, and now that I've hired a lawyer to get them out, they've decided to sabotage me at work. Wes leaned back. "Do you need time off? I can shuffle things." "No," I said. "If I stop working, they win twice. But if she calls again, please log it. Date, time," what she said. "My lawyer asked me to build a record." "Consider it logged," he said. "And Sloan, don't let them break you. You're the best project manager I've got, and I've seen breakdowns. This isn't one." That meant more than I let on. The reputation attack did not stop with my boss. 2 days later, my phone started lighting up with messages from people I had not spoken to in months. Marlo had gone public. She had posted a long, tearful story about how her cruel, money-obsessed sister was throwing her sick, elderly parents into the street over a misunderstanding about a loan. She attached a photo of our parents looking small and frightened on Aunt Marion's couch. The post was shared hundreds of times. The comments turned into a pile-on. People who had never met me decided I was a monster who valued a bank balance over blood. A few mutual friends messaged me directly. "Is this true? How could you?" One person blocked me without even waiting for an answer. My first instinct was to post everything. The bank statements, the transfer, the forensic report once we had it. I wanted to burn the lie down in public. Instead, I called Renata. "Do not post anything," she said immediately. "Not the statements, not a word. The second you litigate this online, their lawyer screenshots it, and then we are explaining your social media in court instead of their fraud. Let them talk. Talk is not evidence. Receipts are." So I said nothing. I let strangers believe the worst. The only message that landed was from an old college friend. "I don't know the details," she wrote, "but I've known you 15 years, and you have never once cared more about money than people. Whatever this is, I'm on your side." I saved that message. It got me through the week. That night, while I was working from the guest room floor, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. The message said, "We know you hired a lawyer. Big mistake. Blood doesn't sue blood. You'll regret turning on your family." I did not reply. I screenshotted it and sent it to Renata. She wrote back in under a minute. "Save everyone. Do not respond. These build the harassment record, and judges notice them. Let them keep building our case for us." That weekend, on Renata's instruction, I went to the police station to file the fraud report in person. I sat across from a patient woman with a clipboard and laid out the statements, the transfer, the saved logins, and the laptop left in the living room. "And the person who made the transfer lives in your home?" she asked, reading. "Is that right?" "My sister and her boyfriend. The money went to his account." She set down her pen and gave me the look I was already learning to dread. "I'll be honest with you so you're not surprised later. When it's a household member, these cases get tangled fast. They'll claim they had your permission. It becomes your word against theirs, unless you can prove the access was unauthorized." I said, "I can prove it. I have a forensic accountant tracing where it went." Something shifted in her expression. "That helps," she said. "That helps a lot, actually. Most people who walk in here have a feeling and a screenshot. You have a map." She picked the pen back up. "Let's get every detail down. The more you give me now, the harder it is for them to wiggle later." I gave her 2 hours. I left with a police report number and the first solid feeling that this was not just me shouting into a wall. The next morning, I sent Renata 6 months of statements before I had even finished my coffee. By that afternoon, she called. The transfer landed in a business account under the name D. Renner. To find out where it went after that, I need a forensic accountant. I work with one, Theo Vance. He's the best person I know at following money that's trying to disappear. Can I loop him in? Do it. We met 2 days later in a small conference room near Renata's office. Theo was younger than I expected. His sleeves were rolled to his elbows. His laptop was covered in stickers, and there was a stack of printouts in front of him, already tabbed and color-coded before I had said a word. "You're Sloan," he said, standing to shake my hand. "I've been living inside your money for 36 hours. Whoever moved it thinks they're smarter than they are." I asked, "Tell me you found it." "I found where it went," he said. "Sit down. This is going to take a second." He turned a printout toward me and traced a line with his pen. "Your $51,800 landed here, in an account tied to Dax Renner. Within 72 hours, it did not sit still. It bounced through 2 payment apps, a so-called supplier account, and a prepaid card. That is called layering. People do it to make money hard to follow. Did it work? On most people? Sure, not on me." He flipped to the next page. "Here is the part that matters. This same Dax Renner shows up linked to 2 other small businesses in the last 3 years. Same pattern every time. Money flows in from somebody's savings. The money evaporates. The business dissolves. The people are left holding nothing." He looked at me. "Your sister's boyfriend is not launching a boutique, Sloan. He is running a play he has run before." The room felt very quiet. "So my family didn't just borrow my money," I said. "They handed it to a professional." "They handed it to a con," Theo said, not unkindly. "But here is the good news, and there is good news. Money that moves leaves a trail. He was sloppy in one place, and right now I'm holding the map. For the first time in weeks, someone on my side knew the ground better than the people trying to bury me in it." "Why are you going this hard on a consult?" I asked. "Renata booked you for an afternoon. You've clearly done days." He shrugged, almost embarrassed. "Honest answer? Most people who get robbed by their own family fold. The guilt gets them. They drop it because going after blood feels worse than losing the money." He nodded toward my tabbed folder, which looked very much like his. "You walked in with the same color-coded system I use, and a cracked monitor as Exhibit A. People who don't fold are rare. When I find one, I go to the wall." I almost smiled. It had been a long time since anyone made me feel like the sane one. Renata had to take another call, so Theo and I ended up walking out together. Somehow, that turned into coffee at the place on the corner. We were supposed to be reviewing the trace. We spent maybe 10 minutes on it. "Can I ask you something off the record?" he asked, stirring a coffee he was not drinking. "How does someone like you end up here? You're sharp. You caught the credit card. You kept the receipts. How did it get this far?" I said, "Because they were my family." You give family the benefit of the doubt long past the point where you would give it to anyone else. By the time I stopped doubting, the money was already gone. He nodded slowly, like I had said something he had seen 100 times and still hated. That's exactly how it always goes. The con isn't the clever part. The clever part is finding people who would rather lose money than believe someone they love would take it. I asked, "Did that happen to you? You talk like it's personal." He was quiet for a moment. "My uncle cleaned out my grandmother before she passed, took her savings, her house, and told everyone she had gifted it to him. Nobody wanted the family fight, so nobody fought it. I was 19. I decided then that if I couldn't undo that one, I'd get good enough to undo other people's." He shrugged. "So, personal?" "Yeah. I'm sorry," I said, and I meant it. "Don't be. It made me very good at my job." He smiled, and it reached his eyes in a way Dax's smile never had. "Which is lucky for you." We talked for another hour about nothing important. When I finally stood to leave, I realized it was the first time in a year I had sat somewhere without bracing for the next bad thing. "This was nice," I said, almost surprised. "It was," he agreed. "Let's win your case so we can do it again, without a folder on the table." The next day, Renata filed the eviction. 3 days later, the court messenger arrived at my house with the official notice. I had arranged to leave work early so I could be there. I parked in my own driveway and rang my own doorbell. Mom opened the door. "Why are you ringing the bell? It's your house." "Exactly," I said. "That's why I'm here with this gentleman." The messenger stepped forward and handed her the envelope. Bold letters across the top read, "Notice to vacate. 30 calendar days." Mom's face drained of color. "What is this?" "What I should have done a year ago," I said. Dad came out of the living room and read over her shoulder. "You can't be serious. You have 30 days. Leave voluntarily or wait for the court order. Your choice." Marlo appeared at the top of the stairs with Dax, a step behind her. "You're pathetic," she spat down at me. You'd really put your own parents on the street. And you drained $52,000 from my account and handed it to a man who has done this to two other people? I said. So let's not talk about pathetic. Dax's expression flickered for half a second. I caught it. So did he. And we both knew I had caught it. He came down 2 steps, fists tight. The messenger moved smoothly between us. Sir, he said, if you make contact with her, I call the police right now. And that goes in the record too. Dax stopped, backed up, and muttered something I did not bother to hear. Mom started crying. How can you do this to your own parents? We're family. Family respects boundaries, I said. You used me. Then you stole from me. Then you tried to get me fired. That is not family. That is a parasite that calls itself one. Dad jabbed a finger at me. We raised you. We gave you everything. You gave me food and a roof until I was 18, I said. That is the baseline for having a kid. I gave you free housing for a year, paid your bills, and watched you hand a stranger my savings. We are not family anymore. We are a landlord and tenants who have 30 days. He snatched the papers. We'll fight this in court. Then spend money you don't have on a lawyer, I said. You'll lose. That night, I checked into a hotel 10 minutes from my office. It was a small, clean room with a door that locked and only one key, mine. For the first time in over a year, I slept through the night. The next morning, while I was eating breakfast downstairs, Renata called. Your family hired an attorney. They have requested mediation. What are they offering? To start paying $2,500 a month in rent and stay another 6 months while they, quote, get back on their feet. No, I'm obligated to tell you that on paper, it is not an unreasonable offer. A mediator may lean on you to take it. I spent a year living like a prisoner in my own house, I said. I slept in a guest room next to my own stolen office furniture. I am not renting my house to the people who robbed me, so they can rob me slower. The answer is no. Understood, Renata said, and I could hear something like respect in her voice. We proceed with the eviction. Their lawyer still pushed for mediation, and the court scheduled a session I was required to attend. Renata warned me it would be theater. She was right. We sat in a beige room with a neutral mediator at the head of the table. My parents sat on one side with Marlo beside them. Dax was conveniently absent. Renata and I sat on the other. My mother started crying before anyone spoke. My father held her hand and stared at the table like a man at a funeral. Their lawyer began. My clients are willing to be generous. They will begin paying market rent, sign a 6-month lease, and consider the past financial matter a family loan to be repaid on a schedule. All they ask is not to be made homeless by their own daughter. The mediator turned to me. Miss Carver, that is a substantial offer. Would you like to respond? I looked at my parents. Then I looked at Marlo, who was already half smiling like the deal was done. There was no loan, I said evenly. There was a transfer I never authorized into an account my sister co-owns with a man under criminal investigation in another county. I'm not interested in renting my house to the people who emptied it. The answer is no. My mother's crying rose a full register. Sloan, please. We're your parents. Then you'll understand I learned about consequences from somewhere, I said. Their lawyer tried again. Surely there is a number that works. Name it. There is not a number. I don't want their money. I want them out and I want my savings back. One of those things is already in a judge's hands. Marlo's smile finally dropped. You'd really send your own sister to prison to prove a point. I said, I'm not sending you anywhere. You put your name on the account. The district attorney is doing the rest. That is not my point to prove. It is yours to answer for. The mediator looked between us and quietly closed her folder. I don't think we have an agreement here. No, I said, standing. We don't. I walked out. For the first time, their performance had not moved me an inch. 2 days later, Renata called again, and this time her voice was tighter. They filed a formal response. They are claiming you invited them to live there permanently, that they are long-term residents, and that you abandoned the property when you moved to the hotel. They are arguing tenancy rights. That is a complete lie. I know, but the burden shifts a little. I need to prove beyond any doubt that you alone carried that house and never surrendered it. Every bill, every payment, every document, all in your name. Can you pull it together? I'll have it tonight. I spent the entire night on the hotel bed surrounded by paper. Utility bills, mortgage statements, property tax records, the pool service contract, lawn company invoices, the receipt for the new roof I had paid for 2 years earlier, homeowner's insurance, security system records, appliance warranties, every single thing was in my name. Every charge had been paid from my account. Not one document had their names anywhere on it. I scanned all of it and sent it to Renata at 2 in the morning. Her reply came an hour later. This is airtight. They don't have a leg to stand on. Let them keep arguing. Every filing they make, we answer with a stack of receipts. They are funding our win. But the next pressure did not come through the court. It came through family. 2 days later, I walked out of a site meeting and found my Aunt Marion leaning against my truck. She was my dad's older sister, the family peacemaker, which in our family had always meant the family enabler. "We need to talk," she said. "I'm working, Aunt Marion." "Sloan, your parents are sleeping on my couch. Your mother cries every single day. This isn't you. You were always the responsible one, the kind one." "I was always the one who paid," I said. "There's a difference, and I'm just now learning it. They made mistakes, but they're your parents. You can't put your own blood out on the street over money. They drained my life savings and gave it to a con artist. My sister opened a credit card in my name. They called my boss to try to get me fired." I looked at her. "This isn't about money, Aunt Marion. It is about the fact that they will burn me to the ground and call it love." She crossed her arms. "Marlo says you've turned cold. Hard. Marlo says a lot of things." She also signed her name to a fraud account, which she'll find out about soon enough. I opened my truck door. If protecting myself from people who rob me makes me cold, then fine. I am cold. I would rather be cold and safe than warm and bankrupt. She stared at me for a long moment, and something in her face shifted, like she was seeing me for the first time. "You're harder than I remember," she said quietly. "I learned from the best," I said. Then I drove away. I thought that would be the last personal appeal. It was not. 3 days later, Marlo showed up at my hotel. I have no idea how she found me. Aunt Marion, probably. Or she followed my routine. Either way, she was waiting in the lobby when I came down for coffee. For 1 second, she almost looked like my sister again instead of a stranger who had robbed me. "5 minutes," she said. "Please." I should have walked away. Instead, I sat across from her in the lobby near the front desk, in public, where she could not make a scene. "You have to drop this," she said. "Dad's blood pressure is through the roof. Mom won't eat. Aunt Marion is threatening to put them out too. We have nowhere to go." "You had somewhere to go," I said. "My house. For a year. Free." "Sloan," she said, her eyes filling right on cue. "I'm your sister. Doesn't that mean anything?" "It used to mean everything," I said. "Then you sat at my old desk every night, logged into my laptop, and moved $51,000 to your boyfriend. So tell me what it is supposed to mean now." "That was Dax's idea," she said. "He said it was an investment. He said you would thank us when it paid off. And you believed him over your own sister. That tells me everything." She switched tactics immediately. The tears dried fast. "If you keep going with this, you'll ruin the family forever. Is your precious money worth that?" "It was never about the money, Marlo," I said, standing. "It is about the fact that not one of you said sorry. You came here to make me drop charges. Not to apologize. Not once." She opened her mouth, and I realized she genuinely could not find the word. It was not in her. "5 minutes are up," I said. Then I left her sitting there. I did not feel triumphant. I felt tired. Sad even. But underneath that, I finally felt free. My father made his own attempt the next afternoon. He showed up at my job site, of all places, standing at the edge of the lot in his good shirt, while my crew pretended not to watch. "You came to my work," I said, walking over before he could get any closer to the trailer. "You won't take my calls. What choice did I leave myself?" He spread his hands. "Sloan, man to man, father to daughter, whatever you want to call it, this has gone far enough. Drop the criminal part, keep the house fine. We'll go. But don't put your sister in front of a judge. She's your blood. She put my $52,000 in front of a con man," I said. "Where was the blood then?" His voice dropped and the warmth went with it. "You think you'll feel good about this when your mother can't sleep and your sister has a record? You'll carry that. A daughter who did that to her family. People will know what you are." There it was. The same move every time. Wrap a threat in concern and call it love. "People already think they know what I am," I said. My sister made sure of that online. I stopped living for their opinion the day I found my account empty. I stepped back. "You need to leave my job site. If you come here again, I'll have you trespassed. And that goes in the file too." He looked at me for a long moment, like he was waiting for the old Sloan to flinch and fold. She did not show up. She was not there anymore. He turned and walked back to his car without another word. That afternoon, the spite started. A neighbor I had stayed on good terms with texted me a photo. My family was loading a rented van in my driveway, my flat screen, my patio furniture, the good kitchen appliances I had bought. I drove over. By the time I arrived, the van was gone, but the damage was not. Deep scratches were gouged into the hardwood floors where they had dragged furniture without lifting it. The back door had been left wide open. The pool pump was running dry, burning itself out because someone had turned it on and walked away. I stood in the wreckage of the house I had built. I did not cry. I photographed every scratch, every empty space where my things had been. The dead pump, The open door. Every piece of damage they had left behind. I sent all of it to Renata. Theft of fixtures and willful property damage, she said. I'm adding it to the complaint. Sloan, I've done this for 20 years. I have rarely had defendants hand me this much evidence against themselves. They cannot stop helping us. But the break that ended it did not come from Renata. It came from Theo late that night, his voice fast and electric. Sloan, I traced the rest of it. All of it. Dax moved your money into an account he also used for one of his earlier marks. A woman 2 counties over filed a police report 8 months ago. Same scheme, same supplier story, same disappearing boutique. I cross-referenced the dates and the routing. It is identical, I asked. So he's already being investigated? He is already under active investigation, Theo said. That means your money is not just a civil headache anymore. It is evidence in a criminal fraud case. I packaged everything. Every transfer, every date, every link. I sent it to Renata and to the detective on the existing case. I asked, even though I already dreaded the answer. And Marlowe? He was quiet for a second. Her name is on the account too, Sloan. She co-opened it with him. Legally, that doesn't make her a witness. It makes her a participant. I sat down on the edge of the hotel bed, phone warm against my ear, staring at the wall. You okay? Theo asked. I don't know, I said. I think I'm relieved, and I think that makes me a terrible sister. It doesn't, he said gently. You did not put her name on that account. She did. You did not move the money. She helped. Everything that is coming for her, she built with her own hands. You just stopped paying to clean it up. That is not betrayal. That is the first sane thing anyone in your family has done in years. We talked for another hour after that, not about the case at all. We talked about where he grew up, the worst client he ever caught, and the fact that both of us had eaten cereal for dinner more nights that month than either of us wanted to admit. It was the first easy conversation I had had since my parents arrived on my doorstep. On day 23 of the eviction notice, Renata called with the news that turned the whole thing. The detective got a freeze order on Dax Renner's account. They recovered $38,000 of your $52,000. The rest he already burned through, and you may never see it. But here is what matters more than the money. With the freeze in the existing case, the district attorney is filing fraud charges against Dax and against Marlowe as a named co-owner of the account. 38 back. I slowly. 38 back, she confirmed. And criminal charges doing the heavy lifting a civil suit never could. I have been doing this for 2 decades, Sloan. The pieces almost never fall this cleanly. You did everything right. You documented. You didn't react. You didn't take the bait. This is the payoff for that. And the eviction hearing? In 7 days, day 30. They have a fabricated abandonment claim and a stack of suitcases. We have the deed, every bill in your name, the harassment texts, the call to your employer, the property damage, and a forensic report. The judge will sign it. It is not a question of if. The night before the hearing, Theo showed up at the hotel with takeout and a folder. Final numbers, he said, sliding it across the little table. Every transfer, every date, mapped clean. If their lawyer tries anything tomorrow, Renata reaches into this and ends it. I asked, you drove all the way out here for that? I drove all the way out here, he said, because I wanted to see your face the night before you get your life back. The folder is just my excuse. We ended up sitting on the floor with our backs against the bed because the table was buried under paper. Can I ask you something? He said. After tomorrow, they're gone. The money is mostly back. It's all over. What do you actually want? I thought about it longer than I expected to. Quiet, I said finally. A house that is mine. One morning where nobody has already taken something from me before I even open my eyes. He nodded slowly. That's a good list. Short. Honest. Then he looked at me. I'd like to be around for some of those mornings. Not tomorrow. Tomorrow is yours. But after, I did not answer right away. I just let myself, for the first time in a year, want something good instead of bracing for the next thing to be taken. After, I said, I'd like that. Before he left, Theo stopped at the door. You're going to win tomorrow, he said. And you're going to be okay long after. I asked, how do you know? He said, because I've watched a lot of people go through the worst version of this. Most of them break. You didn't. You sharpened. I did not sleep that night either. But it was not dread keeping me awake. It was the feeling right before a breath you have been holding for a year finally gets to come out. Day 30. The hearing was short, and it was brutal. But every brutal piece of it landed on the right side of the room. Renata laid the file out like a surgeon. The house was in my name. The deed was dated 3 years back. Every utility, every tax bill, and every service contract had been paid from my account, never theirs. The credit card opened in my name, without consent, was documented, closed, and proven. The unauthorized transfer was documented too. along with the 38,000 recovered under a criminal freeze. Then came the harassment texts, read into the record one after another, the call to my employer, the photographs of gouged hardwood floors and a burned-out pool pump, the empty spaces where my appliances had been. Their lawyer started with the abandonment argument. Renata answered it with my hotel folio dated the night after the notice was served, the harassment text that explained why I left, and every bill I had continued paying from the hotel. The argument collapsed in under 2 minutes. He pivoted to the money, calling it a family arrangement gone sour. Renata read the harassment texts in a flat, even voice that made them sound exactly as ugly as they were. Big mistake. Blood doesn't sue blood. You'll regret turning on your family. Then she entered Theo's forensic report into the record and walked the judge through the layering, the payment apps, the supplier account, the prepaid card, the 2 prior victims, the active criminal case in the next county. The room went very quiet. My father's jaw worked like he wanted to object to reality itself. My mother stopped performing tears halfway through because no one was looking at her. Their lawyer set down his pen. Your Honor, Renata finished. My client gave these people a home for a year. They repaid her by emptying her savings into a fraud account, opening credit in her name, damaging her property, and contacting her employer to jeopardize her job. She is not asking for damages today. She is asking only to have her own house back. After that, he stopped trying. There was nothing left to say. The judge granted the eviction in full, effective immediately. He noted on the record that the criminal matter would proceed separately and was not his to weigh, but in his words, it was deeply relevant to the character of the claims he had just heard. When we walked out into the hallway, my father stepped into my path. Sloan, think about what you're doing. This destroys us. You destroyed yourselves, I said. I just finally stopped paying the bill for it. Your sister could go to prison. My sister put her name on a fraud account and helped drain her own sister's savings. I did not sign it. She did. Every consequence coming for her is one she chose. My mother grabbed my arm, her face crumpling. Please, we have nowhere to go. We're your parents. I gently took my arm back. You had a daughter who gave you a home for a year and everything she had, I said. You chose a con man and a lie over her. I hope it was worth it. It is not my problem to carry anymore. They did not follow me out of the building. That afternoon, the court officer met me at the house with Renata and Theo. Marlo and Dax were already gone. They had vanished the moment the charges came down, disappearing like smoke. Only my parents were left inside, 3 battered suitcases between them. You have 2 hours to gather essentials, the officer told them. Everything else will be cataloged and stored at your expense. 2 hours? Mom cried. We lived here a year. That's the standard, he said, not unkindly and not moving. I watched them move through my house one last time. My father went room to room, slower than I had ever seen him, like he was still looking for the argument that would undo this. There was not one. My mother filled a suitcase with things that were not hers, and the officer quietly made her put half of it back. Near the end, Mom tried to corner me by the stairs. After everything we did for you, she started. I just looked at her until the sentence ran out of road. We both knew the ledger. We both knew which way it ran. You can take what is yours, I said, not what is mine. The officer will tell you the difference if you can't. It was the first time in my life I had said something to my mother and watched her have absolutely nothing to say back. Renata stepped close to me and lowered her voice. You can still slow this down if any part of you wants to. Once those locks change, it's done. Are you certain? I looked at the house, the pool I had dreamed about, the kitchen window, the office they had gutted into a studio, the bedroom they had taken, the savings they had handed to a stranger, the scratches in my floors that would never fully sand out. I'm certain, I said. Finish it. An hour and a half later, my parents walked out the front door with their suitcases. Where will you go? I asked. Not because I owed them an exit, because some small, stubborn part of me needed to know they would not sleep in the street, even after everything. Marion's, Dad said stiffly, not meeting my eyes. At least she still understands family. She knows what you did, I said. All of it. If she takes you in anyway, that is her choice to make. It stopped being my burden the day you logged into my laptop. They got into a cab. My mother looked back once through the rear window, the way she always did when she wanted me to feel it. I did not look away. I did not soften. And I did not chase the guilt that used to come on command. The cab pulled out of my driveway, turned the corner, and disappeared. The officer changed the locks on the front and back doors. He tested both, then pressed the new keys into my palm. Property is legally back in your sole custody, he said. It's yours, Miss Carver. Nobody comes through these doors again unless you let them. Then he left. Renata left next, resting a hand on my shoulder before she went. You earned every inch of this, she said quietly. And then it was just Theo and me, standing in a house that, for the first time in a year, held no one who had not earned the right to be there. I walked through every room, the gutted office where Marlowe's fairy light still hung crooked on the wall, the stripped master bedroom, the scratched hardwood catching the late light, the dead pool pump out back. Tomorrow, it would all become work, repairs, money, contractors, insurance, replacement costs, cleaning, rebuilding. But tonight, it was just quiet, and the quiet was not tense anymore. It was not waiting to be broken by a demand, a complaint, or a hand sliding into my account while I slept. The quiet was clean. It was mine. I sat down on the bare living room floor, the new keys still warm in my fist, and let out a breath I felt like I had been holding for a year. Theo sat down beside me, not too close, just there. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Like the house finally exhaled," I said. He huffed a soft laugh. 38,000 recovered, charges filed, locks changed. They took a year off your life and walked out with 3 suitcases and a criminal case. By any math I know, you won. I looked around the empty room, my empty room, in my house, with my name on the deed, my keys in my hand, and not one person left inside who saw me as a wallet with a pulse. They told me, I said slowly, that I was only good for the money I brought home. Theo waited. I closed my hand tighter around the keys. Turns out I was even better at keeping it.